Welcome back to the Culture of Currency, where today we have to say goodbye to an old friend, the penny. Really, not the penny, the cent. The USA does not have a penny. Technically speaking, it's called a cent, but as we know, culture sometimes dictates language, so we'll refer to it as the penny anyway, so take that. But yes, the penny, obviously this is a 1 ounce penny, it's not the real thing, we have the real ones right here, is going away. We predicted this maybe a week ago or so on a video, and here we are, penniless, because it costs more to make than it does in value. So they're estimating around 3.5 cents to make a penny, which is going to save us apparently millions and millions of dollars. I think it was hundreds of millions of dollars. These back here are the 90% copper pennies, by the way. Our pennies nowadays are 2%. They're mostly zinc, but with the way the world is, zinc has gone up in value, and so therefore it is more expensive. But what would happen if we went back to a silver standard and copper was used again for pennies as far as 90% or something like that? Well, I've had some ideas on that, and we'll get into that, but I do want to give a moment of caution. The penny went away because it was too expensive to make, mostly because of the devaluation of the dollar over time, things like that. The nickel right now, which is the next denomination, costs 13 cents to make according to a government audit. So if the nickel costs 13 cents, if it goes up to 15 cents, where it's 3 times the face value amount like we have with the penny, do they then eliminate the nickel? And then what's next? Are dimes on the table, quarters? Are they moving to where even dollar bills one day will be considered too much to print, way over the value of a dollar? Because if that day comes, are we just getting shoved into the cashless society where all currency is digital and no control of financial prowess is held within the owner of the funds? That is a world I don't want to live in. So the alternative, as we talked about, is what if we just created value in our money again by going back to a gold standard? In that case, we have dimes that are 90%. We have quarters that are 40 or 90% based on the year. And what if we even did nickels that are either copper clad maybe, or possibly partially silver? Because here's the other side. They don't have to be 90%. What we can do is establish a currency where, all small coinage is 20%, 10%, 30%, and then we lock that in forever. For pennies, maybe it's 50% copper, whatever the value needs to be, and then we couple that with the gold standard, and that could lead to some economic benefits. So that being said, I did what all of us do, and I took this idea to the one ChatGPT and asked it, what would happen if we went back to a gold standard of currency where our nickels, dimes, and quarters were partially silver and our penny or 1 cent coin was 90% copper, and our bills would be notes as part of an ounce of silver or gold, kind of like a goldback is? And this is what they said. Number 1, stabilizing currency values. The pros: a gold or silver-backed currency can provide a more stable store of value because the currency would be tied to physical commodities, unlike fiat currency, which can be devalued through inflation and central bank policies. The cons, according to ChatGPT: the amount of gold or silver needed to back the currency would limit the money supply. If the economy grows faster than the precious metals backing the currency, it could lead to deflation, too little money chasing too many goods. That's that whole supply and demand thing. 2, inflation control. The pros would be inflation could be better controlled because governments would have less flexibility to print money, which has historically been one of the main drivers of inflation in a fiat system. The cons: in times of economic downturns or crisis, the government or central bank would have less ability to inject money into the economy to stimulate growth. This could lead to prolonged recessions or depressions if there is not enough precious metals available to back new money. Makes sense. Number 3, currency depreciation and monetary policy. The pros of this is because gold and silver are finite resources, the currency would be less prone to sudden depreciation or extreme volatility due to monetary policy. Imagine how much more secure your retirement would feel. The cons. A country might struggle to manage the economy during a crisis. For example, during the 2008 financial crisis or COVID-19, countries needed to implement stimulus programs that involved printing more money with gold or silver standard. With a gold or silver standard, the government would face constraint on increasing the money supply when needed. Number 4 is a change to coinage. Gresham's law comes to mind. Nickels, dimes, and quarters. If these coins were partially silver, their intrinsic value could fluctuate based on the market value of silver. This could lead to hoarding of coins if people perceive the metal value to be greater than other face value. For example, if silver prices rise significantly, people might melt down coins for their silver content, causing a shortage of circulated coins. Penny, 90% copper, would likely have a value that changes with the copper prices. If copper prices rise significantly, it might cost more to produce pennies than their face value, leading to a situation where pennies are no longer produced or circulated, kind of like they're doing right now. Or they could be hoarded as well, which I don't know if that would be the case if basically the market becomes this type of stuff. Gresham's law would make this the stuff that we would hold on to. The other stuff would be collected over time by the government and disposed of, and it would kind of be tied to any type of global movement of gold or silver because, if silver goes up 20%, well, this has more value. And so hopefully your quarter would therefore be worth more as well. So for gold or silver-backed bills, article number 5, if currency bills were backed by a portion of gold or silver, people might see them more trustworthy than fiat currency. However, the currency's value would be tied to the metal reserves of the country. If those reserves were low or there were a run on gold or silver, the value of currency could collapse. The value of each bill would need to be convertible into its equivalent weight of gold or silver, which could introduce challenges for everyday transactions, especially in small denominations. Article 6, effects on global trade. International stability. With a gold-backed currency, international trade could become more stable because gold and silver are universally recognized. Currency fluctuations driven by inflation or exchange rates might decrease and trade balances might improve. Trade imbalances, if a country running a deficit in trade, importing more than they are exporting, of course, has a fixed amount of gold or silver, it might run into problems where its reserves are drained. This could force the country to adjust its economy, potentially through austerity or devaluation of currency, depending on how the system is set up. Article 7, impact on banks and loans. In a gold or silver-backed system, banks would likely face stricter lending requirements since they can only lend out money equivalent to the amount of pieces of metal they hold. This could reduce the availability of credit and make loans more expensive, which could have a ripple effect on business investments and personal loans. Potential for a parallel economy. Private users of precious metals, stackers, let's say, people might begin to use physical gold or silver directly in transactions, especially if the currency system becomes unstable or the value of the currency fluctuates too much. This could lead to parallel black market economy where gold and silver are used for day-to-day purchases. Interesting. Article 9, transition and practical challenges. The government may face challenges in adjusting to a gold-backed currency system. Printing money or coins would no longer be as simple as it would require actual reserves of precious metals to support the value of currency. Shifting from a fiat system to a precious metal-backed one would be expensive and complex. The country would either need to acquire or mine significant amounts of gold or silver to back the currency, which may not be feasible for all nations, especially those without substantial resources. And we have Article 10, public perception and trust. On one hand, people may trust gold or silver-backed currency more than paper money, especially in a world where fiat currencies have been subject to inflation and devaluation. On the other hand, if the precious metal backing is insufficient or the currency system is mismanaged, this could erode trust and lead to mass uncertainty about the currency value. Switching to a gold or silver-backed currency would likely lead to a more stable value for money over time, but it could introduce constraints to the monetary policy, reduce flexibility needed in times of crisis, and potentially create issues of currency hoarding or scarcity. The move could bring a return to a more tangible, historically trusted form of money, but it would also require shifts in how economies operate, potentially causing disruptions in the modern financial system. So what do you think? Did ChatGPT do good? Do you agree? Do you not? I'm kind of on the fence about it. I think it would be cool to at least have partial silver. It doesn't have to be a high amount, but if we did 10% silver in all of our shiny coinage, and then maybe on the 1 cent coin did 30% or something like that copper, where it made sense as far as the value, and we locked in our currency at a higher rate, then it kind of makes sense to keep everything. But if it doesn't, then what do we do? How do we change our markets so that everything that we buy is a denomination of 5 with tax added? If there is tax, which that's a conversation for another video. So that being said, very, very interesting, something that we saw coming, something that kind of scares me because like I said, the penny's going now. The nickel takes 13 cents to mint as of right now. Does that mean it's next? And does that mean one day we're not going to have any coinage at all? I don't know. That's not a world I want to live in, but that's all we have for you today. So as always, please remember to stay classy and current with the culture of currency.